Um, Last but not least, we have our moderator for the session, Ms. Amita Mirajkar, co-founder and CEO, Clairvoyant India. She's a proven influential technology leader and has extensive experience leading multiple teams and large-scale programs using Agile principles with focus on SDLC best practices. Welcome, Amita. And with this, I hand over the proceedings to you.
Thank you so much, Sujata. Thank you so much for introduction for all our panel members. And I would like to start with thanking Nasscom COE for arranging this, bringing all the leaders together to share the knowledge with the larger audience. And without taking too much time, I want to jump into today's topic of the panel discussion of low-code, no-code platforms, right? So just in earlier sessions, we saw how valuable it is, the importance of technology platforms in the realm of digitization, intelligent automation, digital transformation, and so on. So what are these platforms? So very brief introduction for those who are watching who may not know this in detail. So this is like, you could look at it from a lens of visual way of doing software development. How do you do development faster? How do you bring applications up and running quicker and make it easy to do so? So that's what all this is about. There is, of course, code behind the scenes running in production and making things happen, but this is a visual approach. So in these platforms, you'll have a lot of visual interfaces, you'll have drag and drop, workflow, organizers, designers, and you'll have accelerators, out-of-box functionalities that could leverage AI, ML, or technologies such as that. And it would be very easy to embed those in your application. So these are these platforms, and the concept has been around. So if you have or your teams have worked on WordPress, it is nothing but no-code platform in production in mainstream, and that was more than 20 years ago. So it has been around. Lately, this has picked up really good steam, and then there's very good development happening. The maturity of the platforms available is very nice, and the goal is to democratize app development. And the Great Resignation has also added fuel to the adoption and evolution of the platforms that business users can get their hands dirty and create applications that they want to create. So that's the background. We'll quickly start into the base, and I will also call this rapid fire kind of a question where maybe perhaps every panel member can take a shot and help the audience understand what do you think is the role of low-code, no-code technology platform in the wide spectrum of intelligent automation. So perhaps a line or two from your perspective. Maybe we start with Naveen.
Thank you, Amrita. It's a pretty interesting question to start with, right? From my point of view, low-code, no-code is a new business enabler, a silo breaker that unifies both the IT and the domain expertise, which accelerates codification of tacit knowledge into collective and participative wisdom. I think that's the pillar around which low-code, no-code is actually being used, thereby enabling constant business agility. So simply put, it's a business paradigm where anyone can code and everyone codes. So that's how I want to really summarize low-code, no-code paradigm.
Thank you. How about you, Sachin?
Yeah, thanks, Amita. Yeah, see, from my perspective, like you mentioned, I look at the business value of technology, how it enables. The main benefit I see coming out of the low code is for enterprises to, to enhance or to increase their bottom line, where in terms of digitalization. So their processes, their automation around it, bringing that intelligence around it, increasing the bottom line. That's what is my perspective on the first front in terms of low code platforms. The second part of it is, yes, it has been there for a while now, and it has matured to certain providers have matured enough where there are specific applications in terms of reduced cost and reduced time to implement those applications. That's where the second part of implementations are what we are seeing right now. So these are the two major areas as far as I see.
Thank you, Sachin. So Sabyasachi, I would like to extend, the role these platforms play across the industry, but also what have you seen, what kind of use cases, business problems are solved in your organization, in JLL, and this industry, has picked up digitization quite a bit in recent years. So what is your experience?
Thanks, Amita. So I come from the construction background. So we are mostly into real estate and construction facility management. And with the large workforce, it requires a lot of approvals and stuff. So each and every processes are built into the system, and it used to be like earlier. It used to be manually sent by email, and a person used to collate all this stuff and everything. So now what we are trying to do, we are trying to develop apps wherein all these processes and workflow can be triggered automatically from the LCNC apps, and this can work smoothly. And there are also many apps wherein we have to send as part of the service industry, we have to send many reports to the clients. And for those reports, each and every client, the requirement varies. So with the help of these kind of apps, what happens? You don't need to hard code the report. So you just can rearrange the modules and just set up those reports, and they directly connect to the data source, pick up the data, and then the reports can be sent out. There's also one thing we are doing, like we have been developing small apps on Power Automate and even dashboards on Power BI, and then people are integrating that with SharePoint. So you don't need external developers to develop all your websites and stuff. It's very easy. Even the people who are running the businesses in day-to-day work, they can just quickly make those things and just embed them, and the website is ready. So it's really helping us, to turn around faster and for our people.
Wonderful. And taking the theme back to what we heard in the earlier panel discussion, people are the most important, aspect factor in anything and everything that we do. And if this is making lives easier, jobs easier, then nothing like it. So that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And Ashish, in UST, you get exposure to multiple industries, multiple companies, and you've seen, how companies have changed, leveraging the, advancement in technology landscape over the years. So what is your perspective on, what kind of trends are you seeing in adoption of LCNC platforms? Do you see any resistance from certain sectors? What's your perspective?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Amita, and thank you, Nasscom, for this opportunity. So there are wonderful trends which are now emerging, because customers have now been there's been a wave of customer adoption where a lot of task-based automation and a lot of adoption of RPA, which has been happening, and pandemic actually accelerated the use of RPA, for example. Now what we're seeing as a very significant trend is customers are now looking at more end-to-end ways in which they want to digitize their workflows, digitize their end-to-end processes, basically. Now, when you're looking at end-to-end, the whole question is, how do I help in improving my overall operational performance for that particular process? So there are measures of those processes, for example, in some form of KPIs for that. The second aspect that we see is customers are having too many they're kind of bombarded with too many choices right now, and therefore what they need is kind of a very honest kind of a helping hand, that how would you help them really solve a particular digitization problem, basically, and then how can you help them achieve their particular outcomes. So from an LCNC perspective, it's playing a role in practically every area, because when you're looking at digitizing your process, LCNC can be used for digitizing your workflow. So you can have a workflow platform which has got a low-code, no-code kind of capability. Low-code, no-code kind of capabilities also could be there in your ML ops strategy, for example, where you're bringing in some kind of AI ML models, for example. You want to bring in intelligent OCR kind of capabilities. So you want a low code kind of capability in which you can configure your OCR for different type of semi-structured documents or unstructured documents. So today, LC-NC as a concept is getting what you call adopted and included in multiple technologies all across. The core, and therefore it's kind of a ubiquitously being used very extensively. But I think what I see as a significant trend is there is a significant awareness now that we want to look more end-to-end, and that's where and we want to reduce the time to market. We want to ensure that there are certain security aspects and governance aspects which you want to keep in place, and these are the kind of constraints is what they're bringing in basically. So and this is happening all across the sectors.
That's great. Thank you, Ashish. That makes a lot of sense. And I've also, seen that one of the recent reports we saw from our digital solutions team that they've developed about 100 plus applications across 8 countries with average time to market as 12 weeks.
Yes.
So that's significant. So that's amazing, achievement for the business to bring something to market and to be able to get feedback so early to make improvements from there on and so on. So that's great. Manoj, what are your thoughts, from Sony's perspective? There are different business lines, different, operating models. What do you think? How do you think this helps? And, again, are you noticing any trends across industries? Are you seeing resistance from any particular place? What are your thoughts?
Sure. Thanks, Amita. So we'll start with talking about the trend. So the trend, of course, is upwards because 5 to 8 years ago, we would not hear people saying that, as a business guy, I would say that, I would be able to develop this application. But now in current scenario, we know that given capability, business who understands their problem well can also do certain kind of level of development so that they can sort their problem out. Second thing, which we have already seen as, a big bridge between business and the IT within any company that needs to be bridged by either your internal, management or by certain business development team internally, so that your, IS or IT team is aligned with the business guys. So I think with this kind of, features coming in, we have a lot of capability lying, which is within business, can be further enhanced. Second, I think is important part is that you always have shortage of developers in your company. I don't see any company which is not posting that I would need a developer. I would not need a developer. Everywhere you have some of the other requirement of developer. So I feel that demand and supply part, which is happening on, on certain cases, I can't say that everything might get replaced. But what I'm trying to say is that there are many things which can still be handled by business, and by giving them the capable hand to do it, I think this can really go through. And in that, I think biggest barrier which comes in, one is the mindset, how we actually switch our mindset from considering business people, not only the business people. For example, if your sales team or if your marketing team needs certain kind of, customized development for themselves, and if we enable them to do that, I think that would be the first thing which we need to think that, okay, we are not making them tech savvy or technology, or developers or something. We're just giving them a tool so that their job can be better. Second thing I feel is that we need to understand that what are the limitations of these tools. We are talking about bringing in certain tools to do low code, or rather build up an application, right? So with that, there would be certain limitations because you are working within an environment, not how you would be working along with an IT team to develop something full-fledged or full stack. So that part is where we need to understand where the limitations lies and where we can leverage all of it within that boundary for coming up with a better product. And beyond that, I think one thing we need to understand that this market is growing. I think we are talking about in current scenario, it's around $22 billion of market, and it is ever growing. And then maybe in next 5 to 10 years down the line, we'll see more and more such things happening. And all the biz peoples are they are predominantly going to be in the biz cum IT people. So you will not see completely non-tech guy. It would be kind of pseudo tech guys who will be working on it. So I think we need to positively adapt to this kind of trend, and try to see how we can leverage the benefits of it and enable our business people to work on technology, at the same time solve their own individual problems, which could be solved better by themselves than by an IT guy.
Wonderful. You touched a very nice point of, multiple very good points. First is that, how does the org structure adapt to this? So when we say we should adapt, how does the organization adapt to technology and the value it brings? And of course, the changes required in the organization to make the right use of it. So I would like to hear from a couple of people, not just one. What do you think? How are the org structures changing in enterprises? How is CTOs, org CIOs, and business organizations working with each other? How are roles and responsibilities changing? What are your thoughts? Are there cultural, changes required to make successful pilot programs or successful mainstream programs using low-code, no-code technologies? So maybe, Sabyasachi, you can add from your perspective, because you've seen this in production, you've seen this live in action, and you've seen your organization going from low adoption to high adoption. So perhaps some thoughts from your side.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the business users are definitely becoming more tech savvy, so that they can develop all these apps themselves. But what happens is the CIO or the core development team, they still don't want to leave that control over the team. So so the transition has been slow. It's not that fast in terms of the org structure. I think the majority of the team is still on the development platform where you traditionally develop apps and stuff. But then the new ones that's coming in with a lot of RPA and everything that's coming in, that's all on the LCNC platform. And I think recently, like, there was a process which we were able to automate, wherein there was like 2-3 different systems and they were not talking to each other, and we used to have manually, like, people like take the data, do some VLOOKUP or connect through Excel and stuff and transfer this. So now they are using and what happens is, the moment you go to the business and say that I need a developer to make some RPA and stuff, they will come back and say, bring a business case and stuff, and it stretches the whole process. So when you have a LCNC platform, you directly just open it up to your employees, and then they can use it, and they know how their process works. The developers are good developers, but they don't know much about the business process. So the moment you empower your people, they are able to do their own tasks, and I think that is where the turnaround time and everything improves. Yeah.
Makes sense. Some more perspective, because this is a topic that will decide how deep the adoption can go, right? How would organizations change to embrace this, and what are the changes that we're seeing right now, and how do you think it should change going forward? So Naveen, perhaps we could hear from you. What is your experience as part of Yokogawa? What are the use cases, and what are your thoughts in terms of observation across the industry?
I think I would want to really extend or build upon what Sabyasachi stated, right? In general, in the context of Yokogawa, the industrial automation business from where we come from, most of our LC/NC tooling focus on enabling our subject matter and domain experts to build bespoke solutions that is closer to the customer or the field. In Japanese, we call this gemba, or where rubber hits the road, right? Without the need for sophisticated programming skills. That's the intention. By way of that, we would also want to empower our own customers or users of our offerings, who are typically non-programmers coming in from engineering faculties like chemical engineering, instrumentation engineering, electrical and mechanical engineering, and data scientists to automate the work processes for efficiency, right? Typical use cases that we have actually been seeing is like a kind of forced collaboration that we are imposing on them, wherein we are getting the IT teams to probably accept the proposals for buying LCNC tools, and empowering so-called machine experts, the ones who actually run or maintain or manage huge compressors and turbines, which are pretty expensive equipment, to build applications on their own which track their health. And on the other side, we are trying to really bring in the data scientists who run through the performance data of the same devices and equipment and trying to fine-tune the model that was actually built by the development experts, right? So these are the kind of use cases that we are actually trying to promote in our industry as a whole. And in this case, slightly code-savvy users can also write small stubs of code in Python, probably based on TensorFlow or other frameworks to import the machine learning into the low-code engines and execute this. We call this the BYOML, or bring your own machine learning, that provides for need-based customization and also a handle to bring in the benefits of AI and ML into routine processes. So we are already making use of some of these things in some of the water and utility plants back in the US. And then there are multiple use cases like battery management, smart building management, data center management, where low code is being deployed or is in production. Like Satyasati said, there is some resistance for the IT team because they are no longer going to be the custodians of the apps that are actually going to be built. And then there are concerns about rogue apps being built. But nevertheless, the value of converging various disciplines together, bringing them together and empowering them in their daily work, which increases this turnaround time or probably the response time, is a real carrot that's actually forcing most of us as organization leaders to really take a plunge into this LPLC world.
Absolutely, makes perfect sense. And there is this term called shadow IT. So where technology, when it is so easy to use, every other team will start building their own application and then start making their own environment. And at some point, companies can just environment management becomes a big task, and you need to have like a huge team to do infrastructure management, DevOps management, and so on. So definitely there is need for organizations to solve the problem through some horizontal and vertical teams, either a COE model or something like that, put some governance structure to make sure that there's not too much duplication, achieve the speed that this is meant to give, but at the same time, not cause duplication of work, not cause heavy maintenance cost, and so on. So any thoughts on what kind of governance that can be put in place? What is your experience if you've been through the change of org change to put right sets of governance mechanism to make sure teams don't duplicate efforts? Sachin, perhaps you can take it.
Yeah, so yes, I think Amita, you rightly mentioned one of the could be a byproduct or could be an advantage that the low code or no code platforms, they tend to, from our perspective, they tend to overcome the IT silos or the shadow IT. Most of digital first organizations that we have seen in their adoption journey of a low code platform, of course, we are talking from both the sense that is from the citizen developer and then the pro coders, or you have the development center around it. A structured approach that we have seen around it is that that also answers the other question where IT is involved. There is a center of excellence or an IT partner who who is a point of contact or a leader or a provider of this local platform. Businesses or other stakeholders, they go implement, maybe they implement themselves as a citizen developer, or maybe they take the services from the IT or away, but they implement via the IT provider, the IT division of the organization, which actually helps bring that streamlined structure into place of reducing the redundancy. There is actually no redundancy in that case. There is cross utilization, because when you're doing these applications, there's a lot of reusables you actually create for your organization. A lot of reusables which can be used across applications. So that is another part. And that's where we also say the benefit also comes if you're doing, let's say, the applications of process automation or quite a bit of mid-size applications. You would actually start to realize the benefit of low code when you have a little bit of a backlog or a little bit of number of applications that you develop around it to actually have a good benefit around. So having a governance model of IT and then other teams working along with them makes a very streamlined structure around it. The other part of the implementations, what we have seen is it is little more than agile in our perspective. It is, of course, it's not extreme programming. We would not want to go that route in case of business, of course, for citizen developers, but for regular implementations of where the developers are involved and others, there's a very close-knit coordination that happens between IT, implementers, and the product owners, which is the business. And because you see the benefits coming out very fast, the implementation cycle is very fast, the deployments happen very fast. So this close coordination is actually the other benefit that you get out of it. So I think the governance model should be structured around these two, where one is you bring your organization onto a single platform, or not a platform like a local platform, but a single way of working around it. And then the second is how you operate or churn out the applications using the platform.
I see. Wonderful. So operating model governance methods are extremely important. Manoj, what is your experience, Sony being a large organization, old organization? What is your experience? How was security addressed while adopting these platforms?
Thanks. I just want to, start with mentioning that before starting into or before venturing into any of these low code or no code applications, we need to first know what is, we need to first know what is the purpose of it. So what are we actually using these platforms for? Because we are going to be using more likely a third-party application or a third-party platform to actually host our internal applications. And when we are going to be using it, we need to know that, okay, what purpose it is being used, because then only we will be able to know what type of data are we going to be utilizing within a platform, which might be a third-party platform, or within an application, even though if it is hosted within your platform, what kind of data is being used on that particular application. So first is that knowing the purpose is important, because that will solve your, what kind of data you're going to be using and what kind of data will be flowing either at rest or either at transport or at the transaction level. So how the data is being utilized. Second thing would be, which is more important, I think we all know the terminology SaaS or APaaS, like application platform as a service and all. So in that, one thing which matters is that how quickly you are adopting to that particular environment or particular application, because when you will be migrating or when you will be moving into it, you would have already spent good amount of time in terms of migration, and then you would have already spent good amount of money into it. So you need to have a clear understanding of how you're going to be gaining the ROI, and not starting with maybe the moment I have developed from very next day I will be getting some ROI. So there has to be a vision around it, that what would be your ROI vision. And then comes the the COE, or rather the governance part. So how you're going to be planning the governance around it. So as long as data is at your place, you know how you are handling it. And when the applications which are being developed by you or by your people, you know how that application is being handling the data inside your organization. You would have hashed the passwords, you would have hashed certain personal information. You would like to deal them with your certain data centers where your personal data is being stored, where certain other data which might not be internal could be utilized somewhere else. So all these classifications you would have done on-prem. But then when you go to the any of third-party application or go to the cloud, you need to understand that how that data is being handled in the cloud and other areas. Though we know, I think one of the study by Schneider Electric, they said that 78% of the IT people think that cloud is safe and they don't find it much vulnerable. But we know that even if 99% feel that it is safe, that 1% can bring doom to your organization. So we need to be wary about that 1%, because margin of error on data privacy as well as on data security is very less. And we need to ensure that when we are going into any of the application, though we know this gives you agility, this gives you a lot of capability, you can deploy everything so fast. But then we need to understand there are certain cons also, and if they are handled or tackled properly, you will be able to move faster. For example, how the security risks are being handled, because if it is going into third party, your liability is not on you, but it is segregated. You have liability on your side as well as on the third party application. So how the security is being handled over there, certain level of customization might not be available. So you lose on that flexibility when you're doing it with the, any other application. So that customization might go. Also, it might not be platform agnostic. So when I say platform agnostic, you might have developed something here, but tomorrow you might want to change your mind that, maybe I would be using this platform from a while, but now new technology has come, and that is like, a lot of things are happening in that side. Let me move in over there. But then this application is developed for this particular platform. Can you move it onto that? How much effort would it require, or do you need to start scratch? So all these things also needs to be first planned. And that is why you need to have a centralized team who looks into all these things, your vision, your purpose, your data privacy and security, and then how future lies with if this application is no longer going to be there. So you need to cover all these aspects, and that can happen only when you have a centralized governance team or center of excellence, in case you want to call it. And that should be taking care of all the aspects of how you're going to be handling the first step towards the low code or no code application.
Wonderful. So we covered, in addition to how the security can be handled, needs to be handled, we also covered limitations again. So what are your thoughts on which applications should still be built using traditional application platform technologies, and which applications should or must go to low code no code solutions?
I think if we start with the first thing would be is that if we know what problem we are trying to solve, we should just not go that everybody is going into low code no code application and everybody is going with their own vision, and we should also go. We should have like I said, purpose. What problem are we trying to actually solve? If we have clear objective that okay, I'm using this for this, I just don't want to go into it because everybody is going. I have a purpose that okay, I would be solving just a simple example, purchase orders. Every company will be having different set of purchase order process, though more or less at an outset it might look same, but then every company will have some of the other things which would be different. And in fact, within company also you will have different set of purchase orders being created by different organizations within company, and something would be required for European region, something would be required for China, something would be required towards the US area, and how you're going to be tackling those. So that would be a first thing that do you have a clear problem statement, then are you able to align your goals and objectives towards that problem statement? Then you take the next step. And I think starting slow and starting a step by step would be a better way to actually approach it. It should not happen that we are going with a huge investment, multi-million investment, and we're going to get this nice platform, nice cloud system, and then everything is going to be there. But then we kind of say that okay, our mid-range plan was that within 3 years we will get this much of ROI. But then when we start off, like in the initial set of the meeting itself, we heard that many businesses might be reluctant to come into it or give their problems to us, right? So in that case itself, you would be stuck. So first thing is that gather the, or rather kind of create a repository of all your problem statements or all your problems which you want to solve, and prioritize it with that, which is going with the, which is the like, low hanging fruit. Rather you put it like, okay, low, medium, high. And whatever is your priority high, you can prioritize more, and then whatever is low, you can prioritize it later. And along with that, you also need to think about that while you have prioritized your movement or your migration into a particular application to solve your problem, do you understand that this prioritization may give benefit after a certain period of time? It cannot be that the next day you went into to an application, and then that application is giving you some benefit at the very next day. There would be a lot of customizations required at your own level, and with a lot of trial and error, you will be able to coming into a model which we would say that okay, now it might be stabilized. So your thought process more would go more towards that, how you want to achieve it with your short-term goal, your mid-term goal, and long-term goal. Create a repository of all your problems, or rather all your things which you want to be considering it for it. Have a central discussion that how you are going to be migrating it in your short-term goal, and then go with the iterated items which are your priority 1, 2, 3, and then move on slowly with it. And try to think of ROI more from the non-tangible point of view. See, there are certain ROIs which you always look from the dollar value point of view. But then there are ROIs from the quality point of view, from efficiency point of view, from cost point of view, that how much are you actually going to be saving on that area by bringing these things up. So look from that initially, and once you have full-fledged, work happening through the low-code platform, then I think you can start working on your dollar value ROI as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Makes a lot of sense. Goes back to, following the best practices for change management, for program management, and also brings back the value of, let's not bypass architects. So architects are around to actually understand the problem and help put a solution together and give a judgment of, is this the right technology to solve this problem or not? Or what needs to be considered as a trade-off, and so on. So they're very, very good points. This reminds me of an experience. Someone from one of very large transportation companies came to us recently, not 6 months ago, and they had an application to show dashboard of scheduling to their leaders, and it was built using a low-code platform. It was showing dashboards on the phone screen, small phone screen. The leaders liked the idea, but they said, change how it looks, So the team came to us saying, we need to change how it looks and we need to beautify this, without having understanding of what kind of data is being shown, how often it changes, what do users want to see, what do leaders want to see. Goes back to the basics of user experience design, human computer, interface, best practices, and so on. So it was very interesting interaction with them, because the ones who built were freelancers, gig economy, and they were not around. The ones who were speaking to us did not know a thing about how is code base even deployed. So, going back to following those best practices of involving the right people, making sure we understand the problem first, we understand how to solve, what are various ways of solving, and picking the right way of solving it, and then going step by step. So very well summarized, Manoj, totally relate to this. With this, I would like to go towards customer experience or user experience. How easy is it to make CX changes on these platforms, other than, of course, the colors around, but navigation changes, workflow changes? How easy is it? What do you think? Perhaps Ashish, you can shed some light. What is your experience on this?
Well, see, most of the popular technologies which we have right now on the low-code, no-code approach and the strategy and that particular concept being used, you find that there are certain possibilities to create customized UIs. Now, every customer has a very different kind of a UI need, and therefore we have a concept called design for happiness in our company, and that design for happiness is about giving that happy path to the customer and giving that excellent customer experience to the customer, basically. So from that perspective, when you are designing actually a application, let it be a small, medium, or a large application using a LCNC approach, you basically have to look at a great user experience throughout the customer life cycle. So one of the most successful areas which we have seen customers having a wow is where you have been able to give that good UI based experience, and that's what I think is one.
Did we lose Ashish? All right, while we wait for him, Sachin, would you like to add on this? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So I have a very a different take onto it, and of course, from the experience that you quoted, I could relate to that. These platforms are built to a certain extent in a fashion that they provide quite a cutting edge, not cutting edge, but at least much above standard user experience. Yet again, if you're looking at the customization where you might have a specific need, a very niche need, that's what I would say, is something that you have to vary about in those terms, in terms of implementing it to your application. So when we're talking about customer experience, the customers for your applications could be your internal stakeholders, the customers could be your partners, and the customers could be your end customers as well. Now, when we are going to the end customer on an open, large audience, of course, you have to have, it's a branding of your organization. It's the way you represent your organization. So there are a lot of, collaterals in terms of marketing, how you brand it, how you, want to represent yourself. So those aspects could be taken care around by something that is theming of your application, which is like relatively easy. But when you're talking about, let's say, I want to have an advanced report. I want to have a report which has, let's say, Gantt charts, and then it's grouping, and then there's multiple level of drill downs and, whatnot in the world, right? So in that sense, you have to be a little wary that, you're trying to use a certain ecosystem, like Manoj mentioned, and capitalizing on it to build on something that can be utilized for your needs. In that case, I would say you have to be a little wary, because you might, you might nullify the benefits that you're getting out of the low code, because it's not that it might be possible as well, but you might be spending too much time doing that and not realizing the potential of that rapid pace and development around it. So certain things that you have to be wary around. In terms of, so user experience is one, that there are other things that you have to be a little diligent around, but yes, that's one of it.
And we have to see how do UX leaders, like this, and what are their thoughts on, which cases. I guess this is most popular in prototypes, yes. No matter even if the application is complex. So that's. Mm-hmm.
So what we do in that case is, yes, I think just adding to that idea, whenever we are doing a user experience around a low-code implementation, of course, our construct of team has to have a UX around in that team. But the UX also has to go back to the architect in terms of feasibility. Of course, taking the requirements and then, validating the user experience with the architect or the lead of whoever is, implementing or developing that application, that whether it is possible or is it overkill here. So one level of validation, I think, really helps.
That's great. That's great. Another question, again, related to adoption and, enterprises, large enterprises. How do these apps, what is the maturity level for these platforms to integrate with the rest of the ecosystem? You have other, system of truth, other systems, other applications to talk to this, concept of micro front-end architecture, where multiple micro applications could be hosted on the same portal. How do these applications integrate with the rest of the ecosystem in large organizations where different technologies are used, different programming languages are used, different deployment methods are used, and hosting environments are used? So any thoughts on that? Who would like to? Yeah, please, Ashish.
Sure, thank you. So see, today what you will find is that I'm sorry for getting disconnected. My internet was slightly unstable that time. I was actually coming to integration point at that particular point of time. So one of the most important aspects is about being ability to talk to multiple systems. Now, you could have, we have seen very large enterprise clients having even mainframes also, legacy systems. Okay. Now, and in some places you have all the new age technologies, it's a hybrid environment and so on and so forth. You have the commercial off-the-shelf kind of ERP applications, CRM applications, and so on and so forth. And on the other side, you have a lot of homebred, homegrown, home-developed kind of applications. So your ability to integrate with them requires that there needs to be adapters which are commercial off-the-shelf kind of adapters which are built in, number one, within the platforms, so that your ability to connect do a data, what you call interaction or a data ingestion from to and from bidirectionally between the applications and the apps which you are building in. That's one part of it. And then secondly, you need to also have an API development capability within the LCLC platform, that if you were to expose the APIs of the apps which you develop for some other applications to consume, you should have a SDK kind of an approach. And we've seen that very successfully being what you call taken by the customers, because most of the customers have a combination of multiple types of applications. So many are commercial off the shelf, and many are homegrown, and many are legacy itself, basically. That's one. The second aspect which we see is there are challenges, because even there in the commercial off the shelf, there are multiple ways you can integrate to the system. So the cost of what you call creating those interfaces becomes very expensive. So you need to find out various methods. So for example, we have developed 2 or 3 very unique methods to integrate. And we have very successfully deployed it in very large customer environments in the retail sector, in the healthcare sector, and so on and so forth. So it becomes very, and that's where you also find a combination of new age and legacy both, basically. So it's very, very, what you call, imperative to have a connector and an API SDK kind of an approach, basically. Combination of that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very well said, Ashish. Also, it is very important to think about post deployment, post the rapid first build. How do we maintain this? How do we monitor this? How do we stay ahead of the curve? Set up dashboards, alerting systems, and all of that in order to identify and fix problems ahead of time, and not let customer experience suffer. Maintain the SLAs and all of that. So in large organizations, that also is a challenge that needs to be solved. Bringing different architects together and bringing also department heads together to change whether technology needs to change, people responsibilities need to change, or how it needs to be done. So great discussion. I'm very happy. Thank you guys for sharing. I would like to make the next question a little difficult. I know you all have seen this. You all have seen the custom ways of doing things, hard ways where you have to stand up application. You have to have core developers sit down and take weeks and months. And you have seen this where a business user can stand up application in a week's time and start selling their things online. So in this whole journey, you've also seen challenges for adoption of these platforms. I would like each one of you to summarize just one problem that you've seen and how to avoid it. If someone is starting today, how do we avoid that problem that you saw was the most important problem? So 1 point from each person would be really great for all the audience, everyone who's listening in and who's thinking of starting on a low code, no code journey. Maybe we start with Sabyasachi.
Thanks, Amita. So I think the biggest thing is data integrity. You may develop, apps, and I think what Ashish mentioned about, 3 types of apps being there. One's legacy, the ones that are commercial off the shelf, and then you have those that are, homegrown. So all these apps need to maintain the data integrity at the back end, because tomorrow one app might be changed and another might be brought in. It might be on a LC platform, or it might be something new, some new technology might come. So the biggest problem that we faced was data integrity, and how can we go forward and use that data in future. It should not happen that once we change the app, then the data becomes useless. So how do you interconnect the data and maintain the integrity of the data?
Wonderful, very well said. Thank you, Sabyasachi. Naveen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would take a cultural angle to this because I think much has been said about the technologies and complexities and choices that we actually do make in terms of the platform. But what is really key is we need to really look at the introduction of LCNC from a longer horizon. Look at it as a knowledge management project that you're trying to really implement, right? Because ultimately, in a knowledge economy, larger companies at least, knowledge is traditionally believed to be power, right? And there is a tendency for people to hoard knowledge. Because LCNC actually challenges this paradigm, right? And trying to really democratize the overall process of creating value of business by sharing and bringing one's knowledge to the table without hoarding. So how do you really incentivize knowledge management? How do you really incentivize knowledge sharing and look at building a culture that nurtures KM and change management is something that we need to have in place before we try to talk about bringing in any LCMC technology or platform into the organization spectrum. So I want to keep my answers short with that part.
Thank you, Naveen. Ashish, how about you? You're on mute, Ashish.
Sorry. Yeah. So I see LC, low code, no code as a very, very great opportunity to complement the core systems today that we have. Okay. And it will always be, it will never replace the core systems, definitely not. And whether it's a small, medium, or a large enterprise, they will always be complementing to what core systems and the associated processes around that and activities around that, basically. Now, and as I think Naveen rightly said, one is the cultural part, very, very crucial, and I fully agree to that. The second is that when you have a large slowly growing landscape of applications developed using the low code, no code approach, being able to manage, govern, monitor, and then ensure that your data security is being maintained, your data governance is being maintained, and so on and so forth is very, very crucial. So I think there will be, over times to come, there will be multiple small applications which will be built, which will meet the needs, which will complement the core systems, basically. But at the end of the day, you will have to do a management of that very, very closely. And say, for example, you have core system support, and alongside with that, maybe you have 50 applications, then you have to really manage them effectively. And management not only involves just doing the monitoring aspects and so on and so forth, but also bringing change management aspects, how they are interacting with different customer experiences. Is it meant for internal? How is it impact? If it is both internal and external facing application, for example, how does it roll out? How your data is being protected, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple aspects, basically. So I think the governance part of that is going to be equally very crucial as one of the biggest challenges as the the LC low code, no code kind of application farm keeps on growing in future.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for covering another important pillar. Sachin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yes, the question was quite easy till the time you said only mention one of the challenges. So, okay, so I think yes, I would say that adoption of a platform that is one of the challenge I would lay out, which is some organizations I've seen that they do too much of a diligence where they have too much of time involved in just identifying whether it makes sense or not, and some where there's hardly any due diligence. I would say that have enough due diligence where you have you start lean, but at the same time you have a vision in mind that you want to do. Do a due diligence on the platform side, which platform you're taking. And it's not essential that you stick to a platform also. You might do certain application and certain organization or on the global perspective, the leading organization we have seen, there has been a strategy of multiple platform adoption where one platform caters to niche or maybe complex application which might be expensive, and then they have a challenger which does your applications which are small process automation applications. So you benefit from both cost and the complexity as well. On that side, what we see is there are two kind of adopters. Primarily, what we see is there is, of course, there is implementers, which is someone like us, Nagarro. There are adopters, which are the enterprises who are doing application, and then there are providers, which are the low-code platform providers. Now, from the adopters perspective, we have, let's say, either they're doing one-off applications, which is quite complex or a huge applications, and that is quite surprising that we are able to do that. Of course, in a pro coder way, it's not a citizen developer world in that sense as of now, but and then you have a whole program running where you have 50, 60 applications developed. That's where I was talking about your, improving your bottom line. You do all your application, make your digital, make yourself digital. With this pandemic, I think everyone has realized that that's where you have to go. So start lean and have a vision in mind. Think about what is your application, what is the lighthouse or a application with low risk or high visibility application you want to do, or start with your launch team, or you want to sustain and keep doing the applications with. And also it's I would say it's not a magic wand. So keep your expectations in control, but yet again, I think it's something which actually helps, has helped, and we are seeing immense potential in terms of getting the digitalization of your enterprise, at a very rapid pace. So capitalize on it, but with the due diligence.
Great. Thank you, Sachin. Manoj, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so being the last one, I get the least options to actually say. All my fellow panelists have covered most of it. But then let's say, I would say that, it will be that my word would be the last word. So coming into it, I feel that, the biggest thing which you need is the mindset. So if you have, positive mindset towards it, I think you will be able to tackle all the, problems coming across. When I say mindset, it is about making sure that IT people do not think that, we are going to be losing job. Business people do not think that, you're making me technical guy instead of business guy. And at the same time, you are kind of bringing in the, bridge between IT and business, because that has been the key problem in any of the organization that, IT does not talk to business, and business says that IT does not understand my problem. So bridging that gap is something which is important. And how you can do it is by bringing in the mindset, educating everyone, trying to make them understand that, this thing is actually an enabler, not a job snatcher. So it will kind of enable you in order to do certain level of work, which you would be relying on someone else. And at the same time, it will give you more feasibility and flexibility towards getting your goals faster. So the moment you will have that positive set of, approach, I think you'll be able to achieve whatever you wish to achieve within the organization. So I think that change has to come top to bottom. First, it has to be understood at the senior level, and then it has to be cascaded at each layer and made understand to the end developer or any graduate engineer to understand that what it means and how it can be further utilized within organization's benefit. So I feel mindset change is something which I would always emphasize.
Wonderful, wonderful, great summary. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time and summarizing this. Great discussion, and to your point, Manoj and Naveen, I agree that speed cannot be achieved overnight. If organizations want to be agile and be fast, you have to build that muscle memory to let people understand it's our culture to accept speed, accept experimentation, accept urgency, and behavioral patterns need to change to adapt to speed, and all these technology platforms are helping us go faster, leaner, create better products for end users, and the learnings that we have from the experience of all of you and rest of the panel members we had earlier, it will definitely help the new adopters. So thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your experience, knowledge with the rest of the audience. Thank you so much, Nasscom COE, for facilitating this great cross-pollination of ideas and thoughts. Please continue doing so, and look forward to seeing more and more events like this, possibly in person, to meet everyone in person. So thanks.